All right. It looks like we are live, and I want to welcome everybody that is connecting in with me. If in fact you have already connected, welcome to you. And for those of you that are watching the replay, I also want to say welcome to you as well. Today, we're going to be discussing a topic that I get a lot of questions on. And so I want to make sure that we give you the information, that I give you the information that's going to allow you to really shine in this area, if you will, because a lot of people struggle with it and there's really no reason for it. And what we're going to be discussing today is why your emails, and I'm looking at my notes, why your emails might be getting ignored. Now, this is a topic that even if you have not yet started building an email list, I would encourage you to tune in, watch it, take notes, and so forth. And for those of you that have started building a list, you definitely want to take notes on the information I'm going to be sharing with you today. So if you're already on, I would appreciate you just letting me know where it is that you are watching from. And otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get ready to get started here. What I'm going to suggest you do is definitely be prepared to take notes. So grab your pen and paper. And also, you'll want to make sure that you screenshot the information if, in fact, that is helpful to you as well. So feel free to say hello throughout the course of the broadcast. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those into the comments and I will address those as we are going through things. So, as I said, feel free to let me know where it is that you're watching from. So, what I want to do today on today's live is take you through something that I know a number of people actually struggle with. And that is, just making sure that they're getting a not only a high open rate, for their email messages, but also that people are interacting with their messages, they're reading the content, and so forth. All right, so what I want to do, sorry about that. What I want to do is to start off by saying a lot of individuals who are sending out emails on a weekly basis are really not getting either the open rates or they're just not getting people that are interacting with them specifically because of some things that either the emails are lacking or something that you might be missing as you are trying to connect with your audience. So this is going to be a really critical area. Now, if you have not yet started building an email list, then what I want you to do is to go back. And a couple of weeks ago, I covered the topic of creating a lead magnet because, of course, that's the starting point for you building your email list. So, let's say you have a lead magnet and the lead magnet is actually being requested by people and they're landing on your list. Well, that honestly is probably the hardest part of this. So now what you want to start doing is making sure that you build a connection with them. And one of the best ways to connect with your audience is sending out a weekly email. Now, you can send it every other week or whatever, but there's something to be said about a weekly email because people can become, they can start relying on it. They can start to expect that it's going to be coming at a specific date. And if in fact you're known for providing valuable information, people will begin to look forward to your email message that comes out each week. All right, so today, what I'm going to be covering are 11 reasons why your email messages really might be getting ignored. So, I'm going to go through it in list form. They're not necessarily in any specific order. They're all, as I say, I feel they're all very important. So, I want to make sure that you don't miss any of them. And if you need to, come back and rewatch this. All right. So, the next thing that we want to do is start talking about. The very first reason. So, the first thing that I want to cover with you is, one of the things that I think people struggle with, and this one is a big thing that they struggle with. And I'm going to share my screen so you can either do a screenshot or You can either do a screenshot or you can just take notes on this. But the first reason is going to be that your subject line lacks curiosity or an open loop. Now, let me explain what that is so that you understand better what I mean by this. Now, when we talk about an open loop or curiosity, if you think about the emails that land in your email or your inbox, one of the things that most people we all want to do is if there's something that is making us curious or we don't quite understand it, but we're really interested in it, we'll click and open that. Well, if your email message subject line does not have something that stokes curiosity or creates an open loop, and what an open loop is something like, for example, the title of this particular live stream is why your email messages, how did I phrase it? Why your weekly email message might be getting ignored. Well, for a lot of people, that creates a disconnect because now they're saying, well, I want to know what the reason is. So that's what an open loop is. It's something where, you've thrown something out there, but you have not provided the answer to it. And the only way that people can get the answer, and if you're sending this out as a subject line, is they'd have to click on it and read the content, or in this case, you click on it and you are listening to the training for the live stream. So think in terms of how you can create curiosity pieces. Think of in terms of how you can, create those open loops as you are thinking of subject lines. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you. One of the best ways for you to do this, if you're not good at it, is you can either one, start a swipe file where you think about some of your favorite creators that send you email messages and think about some of the subject lines that they might use to get you to click and then modify it for your particular audience. A second way that you could do this is just by simply going to ChatGPT and putting in, this is the subject of my email message. And what I would like for you to do is to give me 10 or 5 or 10 subject lines that either have invoke curiosity or have an open loop, and just let it work its magic and come up with some things. You might have to go in and ask it to modify or change some things until you can get what you want, but it's going to be very good at coming up with items that would be great subject lines that in fact would have the open loop or the curiosity. So definitely think of that. If people are not curious about your email, chances are, or the contents of your email, chances are they're not going to open it. And that's not helping you because I know for a fact if you're sending these email messages out, you've put some time, energy, and effort into it, and you want people to actually read it. So I want you to make sure that you spend some time coming up with very good subject lines so that you can, in fact, get people to open them. All right, now let's go through and let's talk about the second reason why people might not be, responding to or opening up your email messages. And when you think about that second reason, the second reason why they might not open your email messages or, respond to them is you're not sending out your emails on a consistent basis. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you. This was something that when I first got started, I really struggled with it. And I'll tell you why. And I think it's always good to share, my own personal experience because it might help you. Well, one of the things that I found was I was good at getting people to subscribe to my email list. Like I had, 1,000 people on the email list. But what I was not good at was consistently communicating with them. And I think one of the primary reasons was one, didn't really know what to say. Two, there might have been a little bit of fear. And I don't even know why, in hindsight, why I would think that, because if people have taken the time to subscribe to your email list, that's their way of raising their hand and saying, I'm interested in your content. But there was just something about it. And so because I did not have that consistency, I just found that when it was time or when I was ready to actually connect with them, they weren't really opening my email messages. So I do want to make sure that you pick a date and I want you to pick a specific time. So let me give you an example. With my email messages, what I've done is I've kind of played around with it to come up with a time and a date that actually works for me. So, for example, my email messages go out each Tuesday morning at 6:05 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, you might be thinking, why 6:05 Eastern Time? Because I've played around with it in terms of sending it out at 8 a.m., sending it out at 7 a.m., sending it out at 7:30, 8:30, and so forth. But there's something around that 6 o'clock time frame that increases my open rates. So I'm not saying that that time frame is going to work for you or your audience because, as I said, you're going to have to do the same thing. You're going to have to play around with it. Does a Thursday work better for your audience? Does a Saturday work better for your audience? And if in fact you are interested in trying to figure out, is there one day that works better than others? Like, does everybody in the industry send out their email messages on a specific date and time? No, because I'm actually subscribed to a number of creators' email lists for various reasons. It might be some are content creation, some are, business tools or whatever. But I get email messages from them on a regular basis. And the thing that I can tell you about them is some of those email messages come out on Saturdays, some of those email messages come out on Sundays, some come out on Mondays. There's really no rhyme or reason to it, but they have figured out and picked a time that actually is going to work for them. So I just want you to know that there's no time that's going to work, no date or time that is the specific or perfect time. You just have to figure out what that's going to be for your audience. All right, so let's see here. The Growth Hacker, let me pop that one up. You asked the question, do I have a podcast channel yet? No, I don't. And one of the reasons for it is I do plan to do that at some point, but I'm a big believer in just getting one thing going at a time. So, for example, with my regular YouTube channel, and then I wanted to add in live streaming live stream. So I'm at that point where I'm just getting into the live streaming. And then what I will be doing in time is adding on the podcast. Several people have asked me to do that, or whether I have a podcast channel. I do plan to do that. So that will be coming at some point in the future. Probably not this year, but something I'm definitely planning to add on. All right. So sending emails consistently, that's going to be really important. The other reason why that's important is you get to a point where your audience now knows to expect that email message from you. So I've actually had this happen to me where I did something where instead of my email being scheduled at 6:05 a.m., it was scheduled at 6:05 p.m. Human error. It was all me. I just did not select the right time. And about, I would say, 9:30, 10 o'clock that morning, I actually had somebody email me to say, I didn't see your email in my inbox. I've checked my spam folder. It's not there either. Did you just not send an email message out? So people do become, accustomed to receiving messages from you at a certain time. So what I want you to do is to think about a time or specific date that you want to send things out, an email message out, and stick to it. Now, don't be afraid to play with the time in that. And if you find that that particular day is just not working for you, pick a different day. But whatever day you settle in on, get accustomed to sending that out at that date and at that time. And you will also see that your open rates will be better as well. All right, now let's go on and let's talk about reason number 3. This one's a big one, and I kind of harp on this one when I'm doing training, and with this one, it's because switching over so you can see the screen. It's because you're always selling and you're not serving. Okay. Now, I want to talk about this a bit more because with this one, you have to fix because this will definitely decrease your open rates. It will actually definitely decrease the number of people that interact with you, and it will also increase your unsubscribe rates. So let's talk about this in more detail. All right. So with this one, the first thing that I want you to remember is anytime you are sending out any type of email, and certainly whenever you're creating content, you really have to focus in on that 80/20 rule. 80% of your content really needs to be just value driven, where you're teaching people something, you're training on something, you're sharing tips and strategies and so forth. 20% of the time, you can focus on just a straight sales pitch. So let's think about it this way: if you're sending 10 email messages out, then two of them can be a straight pitch. The other eight of them really need to be just value driven. Now, if you are constantly sending out email messages and the only thing that you're doing is pushing your products, you're not providing any value, you're not giving any tips, you're not giving any strategies, you are going to turn people off. And I can assure you that's going to be one of the fastest ways for people to start unsubscribing to your email list. Now, think about this: you have done all of this hard work to create your lead magnet, to get people onto your list. You've created that welcome series of email messages that goes out to them. The last thing you want to do is just upset people to the point where they start unsubscribing simply because you're constantly pitching. So that is a big reason. Make sure that you focus in on those tips and strategies and so forth. And, always have a call to action in your email messages. However, with your call to action, it can be something as simple as, hey, here's a video that I've created that might be helpful to you. Or another, here's a resource. I sent out, this was maybe a month and a half ago. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was kind of just a thank you to my audience. And essentially, what I said to them is, I want to give you, I think it was 25 content ideas, things that you can easily create and share with your audience. Now, here's the thing: all of the people that received this obviously were already on my email list. So just wanted to give them a thank you. They didn't have to opt in, they didn't have to do anything other than click the button and download it, because again, they were already opted into my email list. But what happened was a lot of my audience opted in and downloaded that. Why? Because my audience is interested in content ideas. So I provided information to them that was going to be valuable to them, stuff that they would be able to use. The other thing is, a lot of them appreciated just the fact that they were getting something without having to do anything other than click the download link. So, just kind of think in terms of how you can also connect with your audience. Now, another thing that I did this last year and I'll do it again this year around the Christmas holidays. I just sent out an email message just saying, no training this week, no nothing this week. All I wanted to do was just wish you a, very safe and happy holiday season. Nothing big. It was just a message, because what that does when you do things like that is it just simply lets them know you're human, number one. Number two, you genuinely care about them. And number three, sometimes we all need to shut down a little bit. Now, I understand people celebrate different holidays and so forth, but I just wanted them to know that it's not over here on this side of the internet world, if you will. It's not all business all the time. I don't ever want to send that message out to people. And I want them to know I'm fully on board with working and resting. I know there's a lot of the what I call bro marketing out there where it's, work 24/7, never take a break, you'll sleep when you die. No, I had a mentality like that, years ago when I was really working. But I'll tell you what, now I have learned that there's a way different, a healthier way. There is a more productive way, and we don't have to be working 24/7 in order to be productive or to create successful businesses. So I'm saying all that to say you have to also pass on to your audience what your values are, how you operate. And oftentimes for them, this is a way for them to see, okay, I can connect with that. I believe those same things. And, some people are going to say, you know what? I don't believe those things at all, and I'm out of here. And they will unsubscribe. And that is okay. You're not for everybody. Everybody is not for you. So don't be upset when your unsubscribes happen. The only time I would tell you to be upset about your unsubscribed, and not really upset, but where you need to go in and do a little bit more in-depth analysis, is if you start getting a ton of unsubscribes. Now you've got to figure out what happened. Was it that your content that you shared in that particular email was completely, out of the norm of what you normally do? Have you pivoted to another topic and now you're training or teaching other things? Well, then it's normal to expect people to unsubscribe. So just kind of be aware of that as well. All right. So let's see. All right, how can I leverage um, emails from my Gumroad platform? See that, and I'll tell you this, the thing about Gumroad, okay, this is the way I would suggest you do it. I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but are you selling a downloadable book or something like that? And that's what people are getting from Gumroad? Let's say it's an ebook. Is if that's something you're doing, then what you can do is incorporate into your email or your ebook that you are sending out to them that they're purchasing. One of the things you can do is just say, hey, here's a free gift that you can get. Click on it, subscribe to my email list, and I'll happily send it out to you. Now you can get them onto your email list. So that would be one way to do it. So the growth hacker, let me know whether or not that's something you're doing. Are you selling a product? Typically, that's what Gumroad is. What you're doing with Gumroad is you're selling something that's downloadable. But let me know and I'll correct it if that's not what, or give you some other options if that's not what you're actually doing there. All right, and the other thing I'll say too is a lot of times with things like that, we just have to figure out how we can get people onto our email list. Now, this might be another way for you to do it, is if in fact you start with a lead magnet and then your lead magnet gets them onto your list, but at the end of it, you then mention that you have a product for sale that is available for Gumroad. So in other words, you're getting the lead up front and then you're selling the product on the back end. If people are coming directly to it and getting the product, then just incorporate something into the ebook or downloadable that you're selling that offers them something that would get them onto your email list. So hopefully that will answer your question. All right. Now, the next thing that I want to do is talk about reason number 4. And this is another one that once I started doing this definitely, I think it helped me to connect with my audience a little bit better. And essentially, what this is making sure that you personalize your emails and you're speaking directly to your reader. So, for example, one of the things that I would recommend you do, and I do this with all of my emails, is I actually start my email by saying, hey, and then I personalize it with their first name. Now, the good thing about it is with the email system that I'm using, I send all of my weekly emails out using Kit. Okay. Now, some of you have heard me talk about System.io. I absolutely use that, but I don't send my weekly email out with them. Why? Because I've used Kit for years. I bet I've used Kit for at least 5 years, probably longer than that. So all of everything's there. For me, it's very easy to just select add first name in, and then what happens is Kit will just grab the person's first name, which I obtained when they opted into my email list, and they'll put that in. So if you receive an email from me, it'll say, "Hey, Rhonda," and then I just go into my email message. And when I am talking throughout my email message, I will make reference to them, not necessarily using their name specifically, but I make it conversational. In other words, I want people to feel like when they receive my emails, they feel like I'm talking directly to them, not a group of people, not my entire email list. I want them to feel like I'm talking directly to them. And so that's what I mean by making sure that you personalize your email list, but personalize your email messages, but also speaking directly to your reader. Now, here's something else that I see a lot of people do, and I even see people do this when they are doing videos, and I'm talking the recorded videos, not necessarily the live streams like this. But one of the things that they will do is they will say something like, "Hey guys," that's fine, if that works for your audience. But I know for me, if I'm watching, let's say, a regular YouTube video and somebody says in the message that they're sending out, they're saying, "Hey guys," I'm almost wanting to look over my shoulder to see who else they're talking to. So versus me saying, "Hey, I hope you had a great weekend. I hope that this information finds you well. I want to share a few tips with you." I use the word you a lot. That's a specific thing you want to do is use the word you often in your email messages. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope this information is helpful to you. I hope that you will be able to incorporate this into your training. So get accustomed to saying the word you a lot throughout your email messages, and that will keep people engaged as well. Hey, Ashiomi, how are you? Good to see you today. All right. So today we are definitely talking about how you all can make these email messages much more appealing to your audience. So, if you've missed any of this, definitely come back and watch the first few reasons. All right. So, like I said, use you a lot because you will find that by doing that, it just engages people. So, and you want to use the word I way less than you use the word you. So, in other words, it's not I did this, I did this. Nobody wants to hear that. But if you're saying you, the person feels more connected. So definitely use that as you to your advantage as you are writing your email messages. All right, now let's go on. And if you have any questions, make sure that you pop those up. Let's see here. Are you on the free tier of Kit or the paid? I'm on the paid because I'm beyond the number of subscribers that they allow for the free, and because I also have multiple automations, meaning when somebody subscribes from different forms, because I have lead magnets for each of my content pillars. So each of those has its own automation. And I think on the free plan, don't quote me because I'd have to pull this up, but I believe the free plan might only allow a single automation. And an automation is when the person opts in through this form, tag them with this and send out this email sequence. So it's a sequence of things that happen. And so that's the plan I use. It is the plan that allows me to actually have more than the free subscribers. And then secondly, it allows me to have those multiple automations. All right. So hopefully that answers your question. All right. Now let's see. It looks like another one. I've personally never used MailerLite, so I don't, and I've really never looked into it, so I really don't have an opinion. I'd have to definitely take a look at that more to see whether or not it's something that I would feel comfortable recommending. I'm definitely comfortable recommending Kit. Like I said, I've been using that for years, and it works extremely well. And I believe you can have up to, I don't know if it's 2,000 subscribers or 1,000. I'd have to pull it up to see on their free plan. Um, so as I said, I really don't feel comfortable giving an opinion on MailerLite because I've never really used that or never really looked into that. Okay. All right. So let's move on to reason number 5. And with each of these, like I said, they're all important. So just make sure that you do, in fact, look at each one and that you are incorporating each one in. All right. So here's reason number 5. And this one's a big one. Your emails look like a corporate newsletter. Now, I don't know if you've used an email service provider and they give you two options. One is text based, and one is the newsletter style of email messages. I never select the templates, the email templates that they have in place. I only use the text messages, and there's a reason for doing that. So, one of the things that I can tell you is when you are using just the text space, number one, the deliverability rates, meaning the fact that they actually arrive in someone's actual inbox versus their spam folder, is higher. The second thing is what this is talking about. If your email messages look like, these corporate newsletters, a lot of times people just tune them out. They just don't read them. So you want it to be, just like a quick, you almost want it to feel like a personal email message that you sent directly to them. Now, your audience is smart enough to know that you're using an email service provider. They know that. But there's something to be said about the fact that you are just sending out a text based email. Now, I'm not saying you can't incorporate pictures of yourself or other things like that. You absolutely can. But what I am saying is if it's one of those, fully designed with blocks of text and pictures and colors and all of that, I'm just telling you, those just don't have as high of a deliverability rate. And like I said, people don't. I think when they're trying to connect with you, I just feel like just a text-based email message feels more authentic. It feels like it's just something you just sat at your computer, jotted down, and sent out to them. So just try to make sure that all those graphic heavy formatted emails are really not. I mean, if you absolutely want to use them, do it. But I think you'll find that just a text based email gets through better and is more likely to be received better by your audience. All right. So, just create a message, that people can open up, they can go through. The other thing I would tell you is that something that has really helped me is also using bullet points because I don't know if you've ever been told this or not, but the average person, when they read an email, they don't read straight down. They read like this. They skim everything. Okay. Now, what will happen is anytime there is bold text, they will zero in on that. And when there are bullet points, they will zero in on that. So just kind of keep in mind those things, even italics, italicized text is also something that they will zero in on, but definitely the bold, definitely the bulleted. So, incorporate that style into your email messages as well. And people will appreciate it because, they're trying to get through. Remember how many email messages are landing in their email inbox. So they want to be able to get through that email without, it feeling like they've got to read a novel. Okay. So, and just for me personally, and there's no, right or wrong, you're going to have to figure it out for your audience. But typically my weekly email messages are somewhere between I'd say 450 and 750 words. Okay. Typically no more than that. So, because again, people don't want to feel like they're reading a novel. They want to be able to get through it. And I will also tell you this that the average person is only going to allocate about 1 minute, about 1 minute to your email message, unless they find it to be really helpful. And then they're willing to give you more time, meaning that they will read through it a little bit more. All right. So just wanted to make sure that I covered that with you. All right. Now let's go ahead and let's move on to the next reason. And this one, I'm going to go ahead and pop this up on the screen as well. All right. So this one is that, hold on, let me get to the next one. Sorry about that. The second or the sixth reason is that your content doesn't align with what your audience cares about. Now, this is where I was saying it is very important that if you brought them onto your list using your content pillars and you've created lead magnets that align with your content pillars, then you have to remember that that is what people are there for. So let's say, for example, if I bring people onto my list and they know my content pillars are going to be, content creation, digital products, email marketing, list building, that type of thing, affiliate marketing. So if I bring them on through a lead magnet that discusses that, and I tell them, even in my welcome series, this is what you can expect from me. You're going to see me talk about content that relates to these different content pillars. So they know what to expect from me. I also, now this is just me personally, with my welcome email series, the very first email that goes out, I even say, if this is not something you're interested in, then by all means, just grab the freebie that you decided you wanted, that got you to enter your name and email address. Grab that and feel free to unsubscribe. I only want people on my email list that want to be there. So I'm giving them a way out, if you will. All right. Now, there are going to be other people, though, that came to your list because of the things you told them. And then if all of a sudden you start talking about something else, or, most of your content is about something they're just not interested in, they're not going to continue to connect with your emails. They're either going to unsubscribe or they just won't open them. So it is important that whatever you use to get them onto your list, you continue to talk about that. Now, I'm not saying you can't start talking about your other content pillars. You can just let them know in, your email message, maybe your welcome series, what they can expect from you, what topics they can expect from you. And that way, when if they came onto your email list because they were interested in hearing about email marketing, and you mentioned that one of your content pillars is content marketing, and the next email that comes out, weekly email that comes out, talks about 5 different ways to create content for a month, then they're not going to be surprised. They already know to expect that from you. So just kind of keep that in mind, that your content needs to align with whatever brought them onto your list. And if it doesn't, you can expect them to unsubscribe or to not open your email messages. Now, another thing you can do is with your audience is if you're finding that, people are on the list, but there are certain topics that they really appeal to, then make more of that. So, for example, one thing I love about using Kit is I get to see a lot of the analytics. So, for example, I can tell how many people it went to. I can tell how many people opened it. I can tell who opened it. I can tell what time they opened it. I can tell who unsubscribed, and so forth. And I can see my overall open rate for that particular week of email messages, if you will. So if I send out the message from Tuesday, I can look at it and see what my open rate is. Now, just so you know, and write this down because I don't want you to be surprised by it, industry average for open rates is about 25%. So if you're getting higher than that, then you're doing better than the average. If you're getting lower open rates than that, then you've got some work to do to kind of clean that up. But don't be surprised by that. And I know a lot of people are surprised because they're thinking, but people subscribe to my email list. Well, they did, but it might have been just because you had a great freebie that they wanted. Now, I want to go back to that though. So, since I can see all the analytics on my email messages, I know which topics perform better with my audience. So, that's where I will circle back and cover certain topics. And I want you to do the exact same thing as you are creating content. If you're finding that some things just don't work with your audience, maybe that's a topic your audience really is not interested in. So look at some of the analytics and see which other topics, if you will, that they were very interested in, where you might have had an open rate of 40% or 45%. Well, that's telling you your audience is very interested in that. So you do have to monitor your open rates for a variety of reasons. One being just to find out, what topics they're most interested in, so you can continue making additional content along those lines. All right. Okay, now let's go on and talk about reason number 7. All right. So, reason number 7, and I'm pulling this up so you can see all of it, is you're not building the know, like, and trust factors, which, if you've been on any of my trainings, you've heard me say that is very important. one of the reasons why you need to spend time getting to or going through the know, like, and trust factors is building those, is people have to get to know you. Your email messages, your weekly email messages are a great way to do that. Your welcome series is a great way to do it. And when I say welcome series, typically that means that when someone subscribes to your list, you're going to send them, 3 to 5 emails, and you're going to, first of all, deliver the freebie that they wanted. Secondly, you're going to introduce yourself to them. Thirdly, you might, you can go through, there's a variety of things you can incorporate into a weekly series. But then they're also going to be receiving your weekly email messages as well. And so this is your time to really shine and let them get to know you. So, you share whatever information you're comfortable sharing. If one of the things you want to do is to share a little of, what you yourself did over the weekend. Well, you can incorporate that into your email message because, again, that's allowing your audience to come into your world. You don't have to feel obligated to do that. So share what you're comfortable with. If you have pets that you absolutely love, take a picture, incorporate that into your email message, talk about the fact that you spent some time, walking your dog or, whatever. That's a way for them to get to know you. They have to get to know you. They're going to decide through that whether or not they can trust you. And then at that point, now they can start to decide whether or not they might be interested in remaining on your list and potentially purchasing any items that you might sell them or offer for sale. So the know, the like, and the trust factors have to be in place. If they're not in place, people are not going to buy from you, and more likely than not, they're not going to stay on your email list either. So take the time throughout each of your email lists or email messages to share something. You can talk a little bit about, tell a story. That's one of the things I love to do. And I started incorporating stories into my email messages maybe a year ago. And what I found is that not only does it help my open rates, but when people reach out to me, it's amazing how much information they will regurgitate back to me, from that they've gotten directly from my email messages. So, for example, my husband had 2 major surgeries over the course of in late 23 and early 24. There are so many people that will reach out to me and they're like, "How's your husband doing?" Or, "How's his recovery going?" And that's because I shared that at some point in one of my email messages. Another thing that you can share to build that know, like, and trust factor is share your failures. If you've done something and it just didn't work out well, I'll give you an example. I think I've shared this story on my live streams. My very first live stream was a hot mess. I mean, it just was. And I shared that with in an email message with my audience. And one of the reasons why I wanted to share that with them is I want them to know that I'm human. I want them to know that, the same kind of thing might happen to them, but that is not a reason to quit. And so sharing your failures is also a great way of connecting with your audience and allowing that to help build the know, like, and trust factors as well. All right, so let's move on to the next one. And as I said, if you have any questions as we are going through any of this, pop them in, and I'm happy to answer those. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's talk about reason number 8. All right. Now, this one, your email messages are either too long or they're too short. As I mentioned to you, people do not want to read a novel. So I I will stay 750 words or less. Okay. And and if it's too short, then people feel like, well, there's probably not a lot of value in that because it does take time to build out. If you're sharing a topic or whatever, it's going to take some words to build that out. So, you want to be as concise as possible. But at the same time, you don't want to have the email message just be so short that people feel like I opened that. I got absolutely nothing out of it because, it had 3 paragraphs in it, and the first paragraph was, saying hello to me, and the second paragraph, I mean, you see what I'm saying. You wanna build it out a little bit. So you've gotta find that sweet spot. You don't want it to be too long, you don't want it to be too short, but you do want to be in a position where you can actually, I'm sorry, I'm if you see me looking down, I'm switching screens in that, so I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you or anything like that. I want you to make sure that the email message is long enough to get the point across, but not so short that people feel like they didn't get anything out of it, and kind of like that was a waste of 45 seconds of my life. You don't want people to feel that way. So just take some time to think that through as you are writing out your email messages for your audience. Another thing that you can do, and I'll share that with you later on in terms of content that you can incorporate into this. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the next point, which is number 9. You never tell a story. Now, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this book to you. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember. Have I ever mentioned this book to you? Building a Story Brand. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. But it's definitely something that I would encourage you to read. And in building a story brand, and there's a couple of other books out there that talk about using stories. When I started using stories, what I found again was that it just deepened the connection with my audience because they would come back to me and share that with me. But the other thing is when people receive information in story format, they're more likely to engage with it and stay engaged. But the other thing is they're more likely to retain the information. So if you can tell a story of something that, is ultimately going to drive home a point, then they in turn will be able to connect with that and they're more likely to stay tuned. Because if you start off and you start telling the story and then you create an open loop, remember we talked about open loops at the beginning, which is where you suggest something, but you don't give the answer. So let's say you start off by saying, this past weekend, I did X and I learned a really valuable lesson that I know for a fact is going to help me build my business and I know it can help you. And then you start talking about, some of the things that, can happen. And I'm kind of doing this off the off the cuff here. But then you start talking about, sharing tips or strategies or whatever, and then you come back at the end or toward the end of the email message and you close the loop by providing the rest of the story and the valuable lesson. Okay, the moral of the story type of thing. That will keep people engaged because now they're trying to figure out, well, how does this help me? Or, what actually happened? It would almost kind of be like if somebody was reading a novel and they got to the most important part, but that page was missing, but they know it was at the very end of the book or something. So just kind of think of that, incorporating stories into it. People work, they will remember things better. They will actually stay engaged more. So I would definitely encourage you to incorporate stories into your emails, and you will, in fact, find that more people will engage with them. All right. Okay. Next one that we're going to go through. Reason number 10, and this one's a big one because who wants to put all this time and effort into something that is going to end up in someone's spam folder? All right. So this one is something you really want to work on. If your email messages are landing in people's spam or promotions folders, so if they have a Gmail account, Gmail has that promotions account, a promotions tab, if you will. You want your email messages that are going out to your audience to land in their actual inbox. Okay. So one of the ways that you can do that is by making sure that your email messages are not spammy in tone. So let me give you some things that will make your email message end up being very spammy. If you're using the word free, FREE, that can actually land your email message in someone's spam or promotions folder. So that's why you'll see people, sometimes they'll spell the word FR $E. Okay. That's that will definitely get you if you're using the word free, that definitely will get you or more likely land you in someone's spam folder. Another thing is if your email message has a bunch of links in there, okay? If you have too many links to different URLs or whatever, or, someplace else, that could potentially get flagged as spam and end up landing you in someone's spam folder. Okay. Another thing is just certain language that you might use or how you're phrasing things could land you in someone's spam folder. Now, here's the thing: once you land in someone's spam folder, it's possible you'll continue to land there, and people may also think because they're not seeing your email messages, because everybody doesn't check their spam folder every day, they might just think you're not emailing them at all. There is no weekly email message coming out from you. So there's a couple of things that you can do to prevent this from happening. The first thing would be not incorporating a lot of links into your messages. That one's pretty simple. The other thing is change out words. So, for example, if in fact it's something you want to give away to people, just say, "I have a gift for you." Okay. So for me, remember I mentioned to you that I gave my audience, my email subscribers, a list of like 25 content topics, and all. It was a gift. It was something I wanted to give to them. I didn't say, I have something free for you that you can have. I just simply said, I have a gift for you. And that was one way to avoid ending up in people's spam folder. Now, another thing you can do is in your welcome email series that goes out, you can always say to people, and you can do this even with your weekly emails if you want, but you can simply say, you want to make sure that you whitelist my email address. This is the address that I will be sending email messages to you. I'll be sending it from this address. Make sure that you definitely allow this to come directly into your inbox. So that's another way to do it. Because as I mentioned, you don't want to spend a bunch of time creating email messages only to have them land in someone's folder because, now they're not seeing all that great content that you are sharing on a weekly basis. And a lot of people don't realize that there are certain words that are trigger words that will that will land you into someone's spam folder. All right. Okay. All right. Any other questions that you all have before we move on to this next one? All right. So, the next one and the final reason I'm going to take you through this as well is this one. You haven't given people a reason to look forward to your email messages. And I want to give you a way that you can make people do this or give them a way to actually start thinking, okay, this email message is coming and I want to be ready for it. So let's say you have an actual message that you've written out. And let's say the message that's going to be going out the following week is about a topic and you've already figured out what that topic is. You can just put a line in there at the bottom of the email message, or you can even do it somewhere in the body of the email message or as a PS. And you can simply say, next week, you want to definitely keep an eye on your email messages because I'm going to be covering X, Y, and Z and make it an open loop. It's important that it stokes curiosity or it's an open loop. You got to tell them, you got to look forward to this. It's going to land in your email, your inbox on this day and time as part of my regular email, or if it's a special email that you're doing, you just need to do that, but add some curiosity to it. You don't want to give everything away, but you do want to make it so that now they're starting to think, okay, I got to make sure I keep my eye on that. And that's a great way to make sure that people, in fact, are expecting it and that they will open it. All right. So give people a reason to look forward to give people a reason to look forward to your email messages. There are some other ways that you can do it too. Let's say, for example, you are launching a product or something. You can say, I've been in development, or you can incorporate a behind the scenes picture or a sneak peek or something like that. And you can say, make sure you keep your eyes out for next week because there's going to be more details about this and it can help you do X, Y, and Z. So there are a lot of different ways that you can, get people to look forward to things. I want you to think in terms of if you've ever seen the previews for a movie that is going to be released. Think about how they do it. They're going to, just kind of tease certain parts of that, and then now it's on your radar, and now you're thinking about it. So I want to make sure you incorporate those types of things into your email messages if there's something you want to make sure that people look forward to. All right. Okay. So, a couple of other things that I want to share. I forgot to mention this to you that will also end you, or put you into somebody's spam folder. I forgot to mention this. So this is going back to number 10. I'm sorry about this. Um, Avoid too many caps. You don't want a email message that's all caps. That will definitely land you in there. The other thing is a bunch of different emojis. If you've got a lot of different emojis throughout your email message, that could potentially land you in someone's spam folder. So just make sure that you do that. So those are the things that I would definitely tell you to do. Now, let me just check my notes to see if there's anything else. I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover on that. So, when you are starting to write email messages, even if you have not yet started building or writing email messages, but you've started building your email list, I want you to think about these things as you start writing. I also want you to start writing those email messages because I know sometimes it can be a little intimidating to start writing and connecting with your audience. But keep in mind, 9 times out of 10, they've connected with you in some way. In other words, they didn't just see your lead magnet and decide to jump on your list. They've probably been seeing content that you've been putting out for a while. So they're interested in hearing from you. They're interested in learning from you. And so I don't want you to at all feel intimidated about writing those email messages. And here's something else I want you to do. I don't care if you only have 5 people on your email list and one of them is your sister, okay? I want you to write an email message to those 5 people as if you were writing an email message to 5,000 people. So give them the VIP treatment. You want to do that. And then another thing I want to share with you about your email messages is, and I do this a lot, I'm a big believer in reusing and repurposing. So if you have written an email message and let's say it did really well, or at the time your email list was small, reuse it. You can rewrite it, or you can just change out the subject line or something like that, but reuse that content. If you feel that it was good content and now that your list is bigger, that other people can benefit from it, by all means do that. Because you don't always have to be in the creation mode, content creation mode. You can definitely reuse and repurpose things. And if something has changed, so let's say, for example, you wrote an email message prior to AI being big. And, I would encourage you to always keep a list of all of your email messages. I know I do that. So let's say you wrote it before AI was big. And now you can see how, if you went back in and you revise some of the content of that email message and show people how they can incorporate AI, it would be a very valuable email message. We'll do that. Absolutely do that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I would also encourage you to keep a swipe file of really good emails that you've received from other creators, or, whatever it is. Now, do not want you to completely use their information or content as it's written. I just want you to use that for inspiration and think about how you could revise it and make it beneficial to your audience. Because again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and it is okay for us to get inspiration from content that we see out there. So that's another thing that you can do. But as I mentioned, you want to use that inspiration because oftentimes with these large creators out there, they've tested and they've figured out what works and what doesn't work. And so what you're able to do is just to learn from their mistakes, use content for inspiration, and revise it to fit the needs of your audience. All right. Okay. So, any other questions as we go through? I just want to make sure that we definitely answer any questions that you have. And I really want to encourage you guys to get into, really want to encourage you to get into the habit of writing your email. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes I'm really good and I'll sit and write all 4 weeks of my emails at one time, schedule them, and they're ready to go. But then there are times when I'm writing the email message the night before. I do not encourage that, but I do it because I'm definitely committed to showing up in the inbox of my subscribers every single week. But I just want you to know that, it's important for you to connect with them because you have to remember something. Email is going to be the most effective means of you being able to sell your digital products. Your audience that are email subscribers, they're already warm. So they're going to be more likely to purchase your digital products than the cold market out there. Email marketing is 40 times more effective in helping you sell your digital products than anything else. So it's important that you build your list. It's important that you nurture your list. So when it is time to sell, your audience is ready to go. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to make sure we covered that. The last thing I always like to end with a little bit of mindset training because I think that's important. And as I mentioned when I was talking about this topic, I had built in my other business, I had built this large to me, email list, but I wasn't communicating with them. And as I said, it was because I was in my head. I was worried. I was, fearful, and who knows why. But we have a tendency to make up stories in our head that prevent us from moving forward. I like to say that's your inner critic. And your inner critic can be the toughest thing out there. I personally believe that your inner critic is going to be harder on you, or one of the biggest obstacles you're going to have to deal with as you're growing a business. It's not going to be what other people say in most cases. It's going to be that conversation that's going on between your ears, and you have to really get in tune with knowing when your inner critic is, just chatting. And you also have to be very, very good at silencing your inner critic. Sometimes your inner critic is going to have you thinking, oh, there's no way you can do that. People don't want to hear from you. Why would you write? You don't know how to write an email message. All sorts of conversations are going to happen in your head. But what you have to get very good at is saying, hey, listen, I've got this. One of the things that I continually tell myself, and I hope you will as well, is I can do hard things. I can do hard things. I know that's difficult. It might be challenging, but I can do hard things. And I want you to get into the habit of telling your inner critic, hey, listen, it's time for you to tune out. This is not your time to shine. I can figure this out. I'm a smart individual. The resources for me to learn what to do are out there. I've got this. If other people have figured it out, then I can figure it out. If you don't learn to silence your inner critic, you're going to stay in the same spot and you will be in the same spot next year at this time as you are right now. And I don't think anybody wants that. We all want growth. We all want to, move forward. We all want to, be in a place where, we're living our wildest dream. We all want to, match our incomes and leave our jobs, that type of thing, if that's your goal. We all want to be able to take a vacation whenever we want to, but sometimes it's simply your inner critic. And here's another thing I want to share with you. Oftentimes, your inner critic will have you thinking your content and your digital products and so forth are not as good as other people's. That is not at all the case. It isn't, because 9 times out of 10, you've done enough research or learned or can learn what is necessary to create a really good digital product, a really good piece of content, a really good lead magnet, whatever. But your inner critic has you thinking it's not good enough, so you don't release it or launch it or anything like that. And oftentimes you will find that your product is just as good as someone who's selling, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a month. yours is as good, if not better, but your inner critic has you thinking that you can't do it. So learn to recognize when your inner critic is talking, learn to silence your inner critic, and also make sure your inner critic understands you're the one who is steering this ship. You're the one who is going to make the decisions, not the inner critic. All right. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I will be back here with you next week, Wednesday. 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, I always say to you, if in fact there's any topics, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to cover topics that fall within my content pillars. My goal is for each and every one of you to be as successful as possible. My goal is to make sure that, the information that I have that I can share with you so that it, reduces your learning curve and allows you to get to the point where you're earning the income that you want, you're taking the vacations you want, you're spending the time with the people that matter the most to you, and you're giving back to your communities, whatever it is. That is the goal. So let's get the knowledge, let's implement it, and let's make some great things happen. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to sign off for today, and I will see you back here in the next video. Take care and have an awesome day.